Hello, and welcome to the Trailblazers podcast, where we chat with women who are trailblazing in business in their own unique ways, their journeys, and their missions. I'm your host, Isha Solanki, and our guest today is someone who's made a very positive impact on my own life and fitness journey. She is an IFBB Pro with over 18 years of experience in the fitness industry. This dedicated mom of three achieved her professional status in 2017 while living in Los Cabos, Mexico, and raising her children. With limited resources, she demonstrated exceptional determination and skill to achieve elite status. Her journey exemplifies the power of perseverance and self-discipline. Drawing from her own experiences, she has developed a passion for empowering women to regain strength through their fitness, and she emphasizes the importance of self-discipline and, perhaps most crucially, the value of community support. As a professional athlete, mother, and mentor, she continues to inspire and guide others in their fitness journeys, proving that with dedication and the right mindset, one can overcome challenges and achieve significant goals. I would love to know, because you've had a huge impact on my own fitness journey, right? I'd love to know how you got into this.
So I was an athlete, or I liked to be active. I was a cheerleader in high school and I ran track. And then I started having children. And so I just had my third child. He was probably a year old and we had just moved to Mexico. And I was really just heavy into the chips and salsa. Who wouldn't be, right? You're on the beach in Mexico, it's what you do. And I was not confident in myself. I was not confident in how I felt. Your whole body's so different after having kids. I just was in a weird space with my own relationship with my body, with food. It was like a spiraling out of control. And I was looking through magazines back then when they had magazines, and I saw these women who were professional fitness competitors and their bodies were amazing. And I saw in them not only just the physique, but I saw a confidence that I knew I wanted. I wanted to carry myself in a way that I could walk around and say, I am doing this for me. It's a consistent thing. I'm strong enough to take my body from what it was to something else. So at that moment, I looked at my husband as I was sitting on the couch, most likely eating chips and salsa. And I said, I want to be this. I want to, this is what I want to look like. And he said, okay, great. Cause I met my husband in the gym, no surprise. So it's always been a big part of our life. So that was the deciding factor. I just didn't want to sit in my body anymore, not feeling confident. Yeah.
What made you go to a professional level and take it a step further? Because I'm into my fitness, right? And I agree with you completely, Ashley. You don't quite look the same, and you could let yourself go really easily. I think it took me a year after having my second baby to still be wearing my maternity jeans to go, I think I've got to get out of these, right?
I just caught the bug. I had my first competition. It was a very new experience for me. I think if you're not familiar with the fitness world, it's just you train for months, you go to the gym and you lift weights and then you diet. And it's unlike anything you've ever experienced before to have that self-discipline, to say no to food when you're still hungry, to eat certain foods only for months on end, to be out at a party and everybody's eating and you're not, or you're eating out of a Tupperware. And so it was a lot of hard work and I fell in love with the discipline of it. And then I get on stage for my first show. It was a learning process and I was not at my best. So I got dead last, but I don't remember anything on stage. I remember going up and then getting off. Like the whole routine of being on, I blacked out. I don't remember anything. And my dad flew in to see me. My husband surprised me with my dad. And I don't remember any of it. I was terrified. So I fell in love with the discipline of it. I fell in love with how my body felt when I pushed it to the limit. It's a great feeling. It's a tired feeling, but it feels good. And then I thought, well, this can't be it. I worked so hard and I don't remember it. This can't be it. I need to go again. So then I just continuously did a few more. In this sport, you can only do a couple a year. Just health wise, you need to make sure that getting your body fat that low is not always ideal for hormones and things like that. So I did a couple a year and then, I was competitive and I didn't like losing. So it just fueled me every time.
I would love to know more about how you went from that then to supporting women and what you do now.
Well, as a mom, what I had to do in order to achieve that dream, it's a dream of mine. It was a dream of mine then. I still wake up and go, oh my gosh, I am an IFBB figure pro. Like, that's great. So many people try so hard to get it when they never get it. So I still am just in awe of this accomplishment. But I had to really dive deep as a mom and realize that I was not a bad mom for choosing something for myself. I had my first daughter, my first one. I have a couple. Anyway, so I had her, and my sister-in-law came to visit me. She was 6 weeks old. So brand new mom, terrified of just everything. We were going to go to the mall, which was terrifying. I was just learning to breastfeed. There was that whole process. And my sister-in-law looked at me and she said, she came into your life. You didn't come into hers. So it was really that advice that stuck with me this entire time. And it helped me realize that, okay, I still have a life to live. I still want to live a life. I don't want to sacrifice everything for my kids in the sense of my entire self-being.
Yeah.
So I would get up in the morning and really early in the morning to get to the gym before the kids would need me. I was a stay-at-home mom. They were younger when I started this. My son was probably 1, and then Lily was 5, and then Emma was maybe 8. So they had school, but my son didn't. So I would do whatever I had to do in order to make all of this work. And it was just a satisfying self-love for me, knowing that I was still standing up for myself, knowing that I was still fighting for myself as a mom. And we forget it so much that that's a great thing. I think it's viewed sometimes as very selfish. You're not family focused. We're obviously with moms, you can do well and you're criticized for doing well in your career. You're criticized for staying home or just criticized in anything. So to be able to still get up in the morning and go do the one thing that I loved for myself was empowering to me. And I want women to feel that empowerment, because not only are you taking that action to take time for yourself, you're also reaping the rewards of feeling great. So you get up in the morning, you do your workout, you can take on the day in a different mood than you could if you didn't. And it's getting back to yourself a little bit. As women, we give everything to everyone and we forget about who we really are, what our needs are, how we want to feel. And it's just the self-love of it all. It's an act of self-love and we forget.
And I think as women, we tend to also be people pleasers in terms of we always put other people first. And yes, I find yes comes out of my mouth probably much more easily than no does. And saying yes to yourself is something that's much more difficult when you feel like you have so many pulls and constraints on you. How would you encourage women to get into their fitness and health journey, knowing the struggles that you went through and most moms go through in terms of putting themselves first?
That's a great question. I really always want you to just start where you are and do what you have, or do the best with what you have. So say you only have 10 minutes a day. That's a great amount of time to get something done. It would be to empower you to say no. I just had this conversation with both of my girls as they are young adults. We forget the ability to say no when we feel overwhelmed or pulled and pushed one way or another. So it's saying no to food in a sense of being pushed on you. You feel like you have to eat it to please someone else. Say, no, I don't have time for XYZ, because really in reality, you just want to work out. You don't actually have to explain yourself. You can just say, no, thank you. I don't have time for that, or however you want to phrase it. And then, fit in your workout. So really it's just getting up, getting in some movement, doing things that you love, whether it's going for a walk, it's an exercise class, it's being in the gym, meeting a friend. That's always helpful. So you both can start this journey together. And then also on just a very fundamental level would be drink water. We don't drink water. Just drinking water gets you up and moving and going forward. And then seeking someone to help guide you. I think that's a big thing too, because in our fitness world, we have so much information out there. It's just an overload. And you don't know which way to go. You're not supposed to eat this at this time, or you're not supposed to weight train, or you're not supposed to do whatever. And it's really seek guidance from someone that can look at you as a person, help you with your goals, and just work with whatever challenges you had moving forward.
What are the biggest myths that you'd like to bust when you coach and mentor women in their fitness journey?
Gosh, where do we start? There's a lot of fitness myths out there. Yeah, I would maybe stop consuming so much information. I think that's an addiction that we get into, if, for lack of a better word. We're just, what's the newest, biggest thing? Fad diets are never good. We've been told this since Slim Fast in the 80s and 90s, yet we're still always looking for that quick fix. So I won't get into Ozempic by any means, but I'm definitely not a fan of that. Myths, other than I would say there's no food off limits. You don't have to starve yourself. You don't have to do mounds of cardio, tons of time in the gym. Really, the biggest thing that would just get rid of most of the myths is to say it's just about consistency. So if you're told a bit of information and you think, this is something that I can definitely do for the next week, great. Can you do that for 3 to 5 years? If not, the answer is that's probably not going to work for you. So it's consistency and balance. That's really the key to anything. So when you hear any kind of bit of information, can I eat carbs after 7 p.m.? You can. And do I want to live my life not eating carbs after 7 p.m.? Not really, me personally. I like carbs.
People do. And ice cream when it's warm weather is quite nice in moderation.
In moderation, anything is balanced. Yeah.
What are the funniest things that you've heard come across to you, Ashley, that you're like, I'm not so sure about that?
Gosh, that's a great question. Some of the funniest would be just very outlandish claims. I think, I don't know if this is funny. To me, it's funny that you can take fat and turn it into muscle when they're two different.
That's interesting. How would you do that?
Yeah, they're two different tissues. It's a good one. I like that one. I don't know about funny because when I hear them, I'm always like, I'm just a little bit disappointed that this is what's going on in the world today, that women are hearing that, believing that, and expecting either miracles or results to happen that aren't going to happen. Fasting is one that I'm not a fan of. If it works for you and it's more intermittent fasting, kind of detoxes and diets that make you fast for days on end. So that wasn't really funny stuff, but
That's okay, because I think the fact that you're disappointed means there's so much misinformation out there, right? And you're absolutely right. I'm guilty of this. I consume a lot of information from lots of different sources, and it gets confusing. And I think a lot of that I realize over time, and maybe you could shed light on this, is because they take snippets of information and put it out to you, but they don't put it in the big context of something. Like intermittent fasting, for example, you just said. And then that's an important part as you get a little bit older and you're trying to balance your hormones. And is this the right thing to do? Is it not the right thing to do? And then it goes with so many other things of what foods should you eat? What should you not eat? What time should you eat them? And it becomes maybe more complicated than it should be. And I'm assuming that probably stops a lot of women in their tracks from moving forward in a health and fitness journey.
yeah. And anything, if you think the first step is so overwhelming or you don't know which direction to go, you won't do it. It's just not something that's exciting. It's not really something that you want to venture in. You think that the next step is a misstep. You're told one thing and then you have to backtrack. And it's almost like your dodgeball. Just, I don't know which way to go. And so when the study comes out, the one thing I like to do, if it's a hot topic, and it's definitely something we know that we're going to get questions on, is I like to look at the study itself and I try to read the entire study, whether it's someone that's going to help me break it down, because sometimes even those can be confusing when the studies. So I don't expect you to hear a bit of information and say, well, no, I need to read the study. But if you really want the nuts and berries of the actual comment, it is, you need to look at, did they take it out of context, which is most often true, just to push some kind of agenda, or just, this is what I've been saying for years, it must be true. So we look at the entire study. If it's biased, well, then that just discredits everything that they just said. But with all this information out there, my goal is to simplify, to redirect, but also to just empower women to just say, hey, there's so much going on out there. I know that for me to get to my goal, it is consistency, and whatever that looks like. And we've had conversations, Tisha, and you've heard me say this 1,000 times, that when a question will come up, and there's a couple different ways you can go about your journey, your fitness journey. Actually, there's 100 different ways, but it always goes back down to consistency. So if you look at a study or you look at something, say Ozempic, are you going to be able to do that for the rest of your life? No. Are there pretty big consequences for using it? Yeah. So you have to actually, I want to live a great, healthy life. I want to feel good in my skin. I want to feel sexy. We're women, whether you have a spouse, a partner, you're in the dating pool, you want to feel amazing. And then you want to carry yourself and feel amazing. The feedback we hear from women we help, and then my own experience, and I know my business partner's experience, is we walk into a room feeling amazing. And that energy exudes. And I know I can show up in my life in so many areas with way more confidence because I'm just consistent on what I'm doing. So back to your question is we want to get rid of all of this, just simplify all the information that's heard so that you can be empowered to move forward with your journey, even though it's very confusing at the beginning.
And I do think many of us, most of us will run businesses, successful ones, but we're still subject to social media influences. Like we should look like a certain way, or we should have a certain type of figure. And I would say that we all have quite high, unrealistic expectations of how quickly we're going to get there. And it's almost like we live in like an Amazon Prime era of we need to make that change and it needs to happen overnight or extremely quickly. And in business, what would we do? Would we do that? We wouldn't. We'd be consistent and persistent, and that will win the race eventually. And I guess it's like the same with your health and fitness journey too.
Yeah, it is absolutely. We do help train a lot of entrepreneurs. And so it is a reference that we actually bring back all the time because we know that they didn't get there overnight, right? So we bring it back to it takes time. It does take time. For some reason in health and fitness, we always feel like we want it so immediately. And that may go back to our days of slim fast or just very unhealthy dieting where you have a wedding in a week. You have to lose 15 pounds. So you just starve yourself and want to get into that dress or whatever the case may be. But when we're looking for longevity, I've been in my sport for 10 years. And then that's even for the sport we do, that's a long time because it is a little hard on your body. But I know that I just turned 40, and I know that when I'm 50, when I'm 60, the last thing I want to do is look like my parents' era of 50 and 60. When your parents would come in with their friends and they were 40 and you were a kid and you thought, my gosh, they are ancient.
Yeah.
And as we grow, and I did hear this as a kid, my stepmom actually told me this. She said, your mind doesn't age. You still feel 27, 28, 17, whatever the era is, but your body ages. And I don't want to be that. I want to be 50 and vibrant and beautiful and feel good in my body. Yeah.
And having that great energy. I think it's about thinking about this over the long term. Like you think about lots of things in life, whether that be business, wealth creation, your children, education, and taking it over the long term. What do you want it to look like as you get older? And actually, that's the same conclusion I came to is when I get to 50 or 60, I want to be a strong version of myself that doesn't have as many falls or breaks, and maybe I can recover from them quickly. If I did have them, that would be the other thing, right?
Right. And I saw a woman in the gym the other day, and I've seen her working out with her partner, and I think they're their workout partner. And I think, gosh, every day I'm just like, they're just the coolest. So I am obviously all for women. So I went up to them and I introduced myself and I thought, I just want to tell you guys you're amazing. And this woman is just pumping away at the cable machine. And she said, yeah, I'm 70 and I'm doing this so that I'm the fittest grandma. And I thought, well, she's already made it because I don't think I could have kept up with her. She's moving forward. But that's the kind of mom, grandma, woman I want to be. I want to be able to do all these things to move my body well as I age. And then it's also paid off because if we move anywhere, which we tend to move often, I do the lifting with my husband. We don't have to hire anybody. It actually works out. It's an added benefit.
I encourage everyone listening to check that out. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, please make sure you subscribe and rate and leave a review on the platform you're listening on, as it really helps us reach more listeners. Do follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, or visit thetrailblazers.com to stay updated for future episodes and behind the scenes content. Once again, I'm Disha Solanki, and you've been listening to the Trailblazers. Thank you for joining us today.